This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Wrestling with Tragedy. It is me, the dad bod god himself, the bald, the beard, the beautiful Piers Austin. I'm joined once again by the suntan Superman, the funky old man Medina himself, Angel, and we have a new host joining the crew. We have a new guy. He is the new third man. He is the two-man power trip himself, Mr. John Poz. John, welcome to Wrestling with Tragedy.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, John, I do want to apologize. You hear how Pierce is stuttering. You see how his voice is cracking. He's usually more fluent when he introduces people, but this is a big thing for him right now. But I want to say welcome. Thank you for being part of the Wrestling with Tragedy and the Russo brand. It is an honor. See, Pierce, that's how it flows.
Thank you, Kingpin. Thank you, Piers. I appreciate it. Awesome. Excited to be here.
It's exciting to have you in here. Again, guys, you can get an exclusive first look at all episodes of Wrestling with Tragedy by subscribing to russosbrand.com or patreon.com/russotwc. Guys, this week we've got a very interesting topic we're going to be discussing. We're going to be going over the infamous Buff Bagwell, a guy who has had many ups and downs throughout his career in the world of professional wrestling, legal troubles, and some very interesting stories and background that he's had, not just in pro wrestling, but his life outside of it as well.
Gotta love Buff. I feel like he's one of those guys with like super potential. Like you just saw him like, okay, this guy's a future star. He's got all the charisma in the world. What could go wrong? What could happen? And then everything obviously happened.
You know what's funny, man? I mean, I'm not a Buff fan, but the dude was a good-looking guy, jacked. Like you said, he's very talented. I can't take that away from him. It's just the world was at his feet, and then it just started spiraling down. But again, the guy was a phenomenal wrestler. I think so. Not too many other people might not think so. But when I watched him, I was very well entertained.
Yeah, he was always good.
He had a thing about him where it was like the level of heat, like the heel that he played was just that obnoxious. Like you just wanted to see him get his teeth punched down his throat. And I think he played that role relatively well.
Yeah, I agree. He had that what's the word? Like the classroom guy that you just wanted to like, he just annoyed you. Like one of your friends that just like
the clown.
Not the clown, but the guy. You ever have one of those buddies that you hang out with in the group in your school, and you're just like, just shut up, dude. He was always the annoying guy, but almost like Cheddar Bob from 8 Mile, that type of thing. Like he was part of the crew, but it was just like, shut up, you're annoying me. So and stuff. Now, John, quick question. I heard stories, but I don't know how true it is, that he was a male stripper and Missy Hyatt was the one that discovered him. I always wondered if that was a true story or was just partially true.
That supposedly is somewhat true, that he really was a male stripper and that someone in the business, supposedly Misty Hyatt, like saw him and thought he'd be good for the business. And then he becomes friends with the Stinger, and the Stinger kind of helps him along and kind of gets him rolling in the business. But interestingly enough, I don't know if anybody else has started off in the business as a male stripper, but I believe he has.
Yeah, I mean, he debuted in 1990 and then went into WCW the following year, which, like, obviously in 1991, WCW wasn't near the size of what it would eventually become, but still, to get a contract 1 year in, he must have had some kind of raw talent that they saw.
And the Handsome Stranger and Global, like,
yeah.
you kind of, you saw something there with that. Like, it's like, okay, weird gimmick, maybe fits the early 90s, that weird period, but you saw something in him. You're like, man, this guy's got some sort of charisma, some sort of good look. He's in good shape, something that he would fit into the wrestling business.
Yeah. It's funny. I was reading some information before the show, and I heard he was a standout baseball player. I heard he was a star in that thing. Then he decided to go into like becoming a certified massage therapist. So I was just like, a massage therapist. I could just picture him with the oil, like in the movie Euro Trip, just massaging you. Hey, what you doing? Mascuzi, massaging you and stuff like that. Oh, You know, it was just like I never see. I'm not saying he couldn't do it. It's just I was surprised that he was a certified massage therapist.
I mean, he like I think as well, like he has like a very interesting like family background as well. Like from where he grew up, I believe they even had like a family business, and the thought was for him to go into that family business. You know, but also like interesting enough, like he even shot his own dad. Like I saw, like, man, that's a pretty fucked up dynamic if you're going to be pointing a firearm at your dad and firing shots.
Yeah, apparently he was, I guess maybe abusive is the story, or so he says, abusive towards his mom and him, and he basically had to get a gun out and shoot his dad. I was like, man, that's like pretty intense. That could have led towards, just mental issues later on, or his drug addiction issues and everything else, and popping pills and alcohol. If that's in your head that one shot your own dad, it's got to affect you later on in life.
Yeah, how old was he when he shot his own dad? Do you know?
I don't remember the story, but there's a Buff documentary about it. He was younger, so I don't remember the exact age, but I know he was younger, probably in his teens, I think.
Yeah, right. So even then, like at a teenager, you wouldn't even be able to sort of process it then either.
Yeah.
Like, that would sort of like go on to really fuck you up, which would make a lot of sense, given Buff's, history with substance as well.
Well, that's kind of hard in the wrestling business in the 90s because everybody was on gimmicks for some form of fashion. I mean, I was doing gimmicks, not that much, but I didn't have any issues in my personal life. I was just following the beat of the drum with everybody else. Hey, take this, And when I was hurt, but that was the norm back then, gimmicks. I mean, yeah, he might have had his demons and used it to cope with certain situations in his life, but if wrestling introduced him to that lifestyle, that's all the part of the game, and he just used it as a vice for his other issues.
Do you think, like, when he joined NWO in, I believe it was 1996, do you think that sort of really was the standout point for his career? Like, do you think that was where, like, because like his stuff before that was like that sort of, blue collar baby face, very sort of like, clean cut babyface sort of guy. Then he went into like Buff as the Staff, became that sort of NWO Bagwell that we saw. Do you guys believe that was the sort of the highest point of his career?
Definitely, I think so.
Oh yeah, NWO, it's anybody's high point in the career. Yeah, that's something you definitely put on your resume. Now that for example, you got the pause man here now, Pierce, you could put that on your resume, and it'll shoot you to the stars, brother. It's just that's what happens, baby. The pause man.
But you think about it, he was like the American males, right? Him and Scotty Riggs, pretty corny, pretty like 80s style. Then it's like, okay, how can we kind of get with the times here and really become his true self, which is Buff Bagwell? And I thought that was great when he turns on Scotty. He joins the NWO. Definitely a high point as far as like that point of his career, for sure, definitely, because he's like the 8th member into the NWO. It's not when they totally got convoluted and added a million guys to the group. He was kind of in the first 10 or the first 8. So to me, huge point in his career.
Now, I remember a Buff tagged with Too Cold. I forgot the name, but it was supposed to be this, black and white gimmick. I mean, they were pretty hot, good looking guy. Of course, Too Cold with his phenomenal skills and aerial skills. But apparently that had a falling out because, I talked to Too Cold a long time ago, joking with him. I said, hey, is it true that, Buff you bumped your career when you joined the tag team? And he's like, what? And then a lot of shoot interviews, he's just like, dude, he just wants to whip his ass, and but I remember the tag team. It was an awesome tag team, man. It was just blessed. I don't know the full reason why they broke up besides his attitude. That's the only thing I know about.
Yeah, former tag champs. They're really good. They didn't really have a name though, as far as I remember. I don't think they did, but they were a great team. It's funny, like the mix, like why they got put together, because they don't seem like they would mesh well on screen or off screen, but they did have good chemistry as far as being a tag team. If you think about it, Scorpio, awesome wrestler, awesome worker, high flyer. Bagwell, good worker, but much more grounded. I mean, they were kind of opposites in a lot of way.
Yeah, Too Cold is one of those guys, like, I mean, how old is he? 50? I'm going to be 50. He's like, what, 51, 50?
Early
something
50s,
yeah. And the guys, I just saw something recently. He's still diving off the top rope, doing these, like, twist spiral moves, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I don't know how he could still walk. Not say walk, but then I'm hurting from dropping knee drops on an apron, and it bothers my knee. And he never complains about his back. But anyway, that's just a different story. But kudos to Colt.
It's funny though, in interviews with both of them, they always kind of not badmouth each other, but if somebody brings the other one up, they're like, "Oh, I'll fight him. I'll kick his ass." Like they go back and forth. I don't know what the heat was or whatever with them, but I could see Buff being Buff and rubbing him the wrong way. You know what I mean? Kind of backstage, maybe just being cocky and arrogant, and maybe trying to get a push, or maybe trying to separate himself from him and trying to leave Scorpio in the dust. I don't know what the issue is, but they always say like, "Oh, I'll kick his ass," like, "Oh, I'll kick his ass," and they kind of badmouth each other back and forth.
Well, you're right. You know what I think? It's just like, think about it like this. I mean, again, I'm bringing it back. He was good looking, great physique. Thinking, just assume I'm privileged. Look at me. Look at my face. Women love me. They adore me. I was the handsome stranger. I think, just like, I mean, I'm not saying that's what it is, but sometimes when you have that in those cards, sometimes you feel like you're like, I am the stuff. Sometimes your wrestling image is an enhancement of your actual self.
Yep.
So 10 times. So whatever the Buff was in the ring, that was probably him 10 times more as the character. So you never know.
And him getting on the gimmicks as well. He'd be living the gimmick to its fullest as well.
Oh, gimmicks. I loved them. It was great. Anyway,
I love how everything with wrestlers is gimmicks. Like anything, they'd be like a garbage can. Like, oh, look at that gimmick. Like everything's a gimmick to a wrestler. Like, I know what you mean. Obviously, drugs and stuff is gimmicks, but it's just funny that they every term. It's like, oh, I had gimmicks this morning for breakfast. It's like they mean drugs. They mean eggs and sausage. Like everything is gimmicks.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, the funny thing about pro wrestling is everything's an angle. Like I always teach Pierce, like, always look everything as angle. Why is your boss asking you this question? Why is your wife asking you this question? Why does your kid want to go to this movie? What kind of angle are you trying to pull? And I live that lifestyle. Everything I look, everything's an angle. Everybody's trying to work somebody. So I always look at it with a keen eye, and it always helped me out, from that, when being taught that. So I always look at people and read them and go, he's working an angle on me. This guy ain't gonna get it over on me, So that's just how wrestling is, man. You've been around. That's just, everything's a gimmick. My coffee, look at this. This gimmick's good, So.
But like, as far as Buff goes as an in-ring performer, how would you guys rate him as far as like in-ring like work goes?
Angel, what do you think? What are you thinking? I think he's great in ring.
I think he's a great worker. I mean, I can't knock his wrestling ability in the ring. I mean, I never thought he sucked. I never said, this guy is not talented. Now, the part where, like Missy Hyatt helping him and he's getting his opportunity in the ring the way he did, of course, guys went, well, fuck him. He didn't pay his dues. He's a piece of shit, because in the wrestling business, you have to pay your dues on the road, eating shit, eating cans of tuna, raw potatoes, like living the hard life. And then, and going up and down the road with the boys. Due to the fact he had the opportunity to come through the back door, some people be like, bitter, just like Tough Enough. The guy gets a contract, he gets opportunity, and the guy's like, this motherfucker. Are you serious? I got to put this guy over? Yeah, that's the resentment I'll feel if I was in that situation with him.
I always thought he was really... Oh, yeah, definitely in that time period. But I always thought he was a good worker. Never thought like, oh, this guy stinks in the ring. I was always like impressed, especially all of his tag team runs with the Patriots, Scorpio, then Scotty Riggs. They always had good matches. His one-on-one matches were strong. He's pretty athletic. If you think about the Bluff. Ooh, easy for me to say. Buff Blockbuster. There you go. Finally got it. But that's pretty damn athletic. So many people have copied that since then. I mean, I just always thought like, man, he's athletic. He's got the work rate down. He's got good moves. He knows how to play to the crowd. I never had a problem with him in ring. And I just thought like, man, like this guy's charisma, it makes like a normal clothesline or a normal punch, that he would throw that kind of almost over the top. Like that always got over with me just because he's so charismatic. Everything he did always meant a little bit more just because he's got like that thing about him, that it factor about him.
I actually really enjoyed his final tag team run with Shane Douglas. I thought that was probably one of the most underrated runs for a tag team because they were so, I think, character wise, like there was some similarities, but it's completely different as well. You know what I mean? Like the similarities were very slight and minor, and the difference of like even like ring style and gimmick wise as well, I think really made a great team.
It's funny
Well,
when they put them together, they put like it was basically the New Blood. So, Russo and Bischoff's group, and they're trying to do the New Blood. But it's funny because Buff almost could fit in with like the Millionaires Club guys because he's boys with Luger and Sting and stuff. But I could see that point where he's younger and he's not getting the chance. And Shane and him both were in WCW earlier on. They both kind of got screwed, and all the other guys always got a push. And years later, those guys are still getting the same push. I always liked that team. I always thought it was good. Just didn't get a long enough run, obviously. I mean, it was kind of one of those things with wrestling in general in that period in WCW is going to influx. It's like they're going to push them to a certain point and they're going to split them up and do something else. So I feel like they should have been teamed longer. Obviously, they were the WCW Tag Team Champions, but they should have been teamed longer, I thought.
now,
Yeah, I agree.
just curiosity. Now, you're talking about Shane Douglas. Was that before or after he formed a tag team with the Patriot called Stars and Stripes? What
That was
when
after.
Way
Well,
after,
that-
yeah.
after?
Stars and
like
Stripes
that
is like
was in,
94 era, 95. And Shane Douglas was about 2000 during the new WCW New Blood stuff with the Millionaires Club.
Okay, no worries. I just trying to put that timeline together.
Yes. Stars and Stripes was pretty good.
Oh, dude. Yeah. But that's the thing. Like he just looks like that clean cut American white boy back then. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yep.
it's he like in the hindsight, you look at it, he was kind of like the John Cena of that era that they just didn't really get to that level of a John Cena. You know what I mean? But very like similarities as far
Yep.
as like build and look goes.
And like cheesy, typical baby face. He looks great. He's going to say some corny stuff, and like the crowd's going to cheer him. Yeah, definitely in that mold.
Yeah,
No,
100%.
I agree. I agree. I agree. Like I said, I mean, the guy. I mean, the one story I heard it, and I never found the proof, but he was an amateur boxer. I mean, he had a decent career, but I couldn't find how long he did the boxing. Hey, pause. You know how long he would do the
I'm not
amateur
sure. I
boxing
know
for?
he was doing amateur boxing. I don't think he was like Golden Gloves or anything like that, but I've heard amateur boxing. I heard Disco Inferno actually talking about it too, how he was actually like legit kind of tough, which is almost like you don't almost believe it because the way he looks, but supposedly he had some sort of boxing background. And Disco was saying, "Oh, he's tough. He doesn't back down from anybody. He's good in a fight. He's got good hands and stuff." You just by looking at him, you're like, I don't know about that, but supposedly it is true. And there was a documentary about him where he kind of goes into a little detail about how he has a boxing background, but obviously it wasn't like Mark Merrill level where he's doing Golden Gloves, or else he would have mentioned it all the time.
But
Ooh, man.
was there ever but was there ever an instance, like I can't recall hearing about Buff getting into any backstage brawls or fights? Like, do you guys
Oh
like
yeah, a
recall 'em?
bunch. Yeah,
Oh, really?
Shane Helms in WWF, which kind of led to
Yeah, I
his
heard that
firing.
one actually. So yeah, that was
But
the ice bottle, right?
yeah, but it's funny. Everyone always says that Buff got beat up by Shane Helms. He threw an ice bottle at him and like knocked him out with the bottle. So it's not really like he lost a fight to Shane. Maybe it didn't go his way, but I don't know if that's necessarily losing when the guy hits you with a bottle.
That's like getting sucker punched at a bar. But
Yeah.
before we go any
Bitch
further, I
move.
just want to dedicate this part. I'm going to do a micro content for Kiwi Allen to solidify Buff Bagwell's boxing skills. And
Oh yeah.
thank God Kiwi did not step that line. Luckily that black dude was blocking him because then I would have not had a co-host on the Funkin' Kingpin show. Anyway, continue.
Oh shit!
It's like,
Damn.
oh shit, Kiwi, wake up.
His shoulder is really bad though. He probably wouldn't have been able to get that overhand right that you see.
He could
from Buff.
use it. The jab. See,
Okay, all right.
keep that arm up and just jab away.
Left hook, yeah, come with a left hook.
Hey
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
I don't know. Kiwi seems quite wiry, man.
No, I always joke. Kui was a badass good dude.
Yeah, but who would win, Angel? Come on, be serious. Who would win, Buff or Alan Funk?
I think Alan Funk's testicular fortitude, because he's just a wild beast. I mean, I joke about him being beat up, but I don't think, since Buff is injured, like he was walking like Frankenstein and his back and all that stuff. And even if it was at a point where he was like fully healthy, I think it'd be Kui.
I don't know. Off air, you said that Buff with that one overhand right would knock him out. How come you're changing your mind now?
Well,
Is it because we're on air? You don't want to be truthful?
No.
John Pod's
I don't want to
stirring
lose.
the
I don't
pot.
want to lose. I don't want to lose a co-host. So scrap that.
You
We'll
were
cut this from the
you were
scene.
talking about that overhand right, and you said that Buff would knock him out. You said he got the height and that he'd come down with it. You did say that.
Yeah, but that's if he was in his prime. I think he would be able to get
okay.
with the overhand right.
All right.
But
All right.
due to, like I said, with Kiwi's like
True.
animalistic, no holds barred attitude, he'll fucking rip him a new one. You see the movie quote in there?
Yes.
Honestly, I just don't. Honestly, I don't think Alan would actually stop, and that's where I think
That's what he's like a badger, bro, like a Wolverine. He
looks like he's in great shape too.
Oh, he's in
like
ridiculous
especially
shape.
compared to Buff right now.
Oh, he's blessed.
He sent a photo of himself. Like, dude, he's got arms the size of Hogan's, bro. Like, no shit.
He's
not even on here. Is it on here?
Funkster.
Like the picture? I thought.
Let me have a look.
Brad put it up, but I could be wrong.
I'm just having a look. But yeah, he was Kiwi's completely jacked.
Yeah, he's for his age, 50 years old, looking like in the greatest shape. I mean, I'm not saying he was in great shape then, but he's just still at that level. So yeah, I mean, no gimmicks, nothing like that. Guys, just pure physique. But
and Buff's falling apart.
And that's the thing, man. I mean, I was watching, and like they say, like when you get older, your body, like when your hot women titties sag, you get the basset hound look. That's why I keep looking and think I get these lines right here. You start getting old, and I see some pictures of Buff, and again, comparing apples to oranges, like shit, he's just getting like his biceps are small. I think he tore his triceps because his triceps are looking a little deformed, and like I think he tore his bicep because it's like I don't know. If you watch a picture and compare apples and oranges to the past, that's like they don't look. His physique doesn't look the same, and I think it's just the injuries and tears and stuff. But for his age, he looks great. For like comparing the two, it's just like it looks bad. But it's called old age.
Do you think he did a lot of like steroids and stuff? I mean, obviously he had to do something, but do you think he has that type of body, or do you think he was just naturally that big in his prime? You think
Hell yeah, yeah. Gimmicks were part of the business, man. I mean, I was on the gimmicks. I have not came across, and I'm not saying there's nobody that's not natural, CM Punk, all that stuff. But I mean, but during that time, it was part of the process, going to the gym, eating right, saying your prayers, believing in yourself, bullshit. Taking the gimmicks to work out. Look, look at those guns.
Wow, look at his arms. Look at the arms there, Funk.
The funny thing, I told him that when he was there, people were reporting that they saw Nessie coming out of the water, but it was really him flexing his biceps because somebody took a picture and they thought it was the fucking head of Nessie, but they realized it was too pale and they were like, oh, that's fucking Alan Funk, the guy's blessed, genetically blessed, And but steroids were part of the culture. I'll be honest, I think Buff was on the gimmicks, which is nothing wrong. Everybody was. And I don't think he's on it right now because he has no. You had to have a purpose, to use the gimmicks. A drive. You have an end game. Yep. When you don't like right now, I'm like, why? Who I'm going to impress? Why do I want to be buffed and the stuff if I'm not wrestling in the ring and showing? You know what I mean? You have to have a goal. I'm running a marathon, so I run every day. And then next month is I got to run this marathon, so that's my goal. I got to do these miles. That's the type of shit.
But also seeing that video of Buff, like he seemed very like his movement was very restricted.
When like during the past or during now?
During the video that with Alan.
With Funk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he was hurt. He's injured, man. I mean,
but that's what I'm saying. Like long term, like with guys that sort of abuse roids and stuff like that, you see a lot of guys get knee replacements, hip replacements, all these sort of stuff as well.
No. That's because, I mean, if you're talking like if superstar Billy Graham, that motherfucker was doing like tons and tons. It's like Paz smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I smoke 4 packs of cigarettes a day for 15 years. Yeah, he might get cancer, but I'm going to get fucking cancer. I'm going to get like some legit shit. So compared to superstar Billy Graham, his fucking bones deteriorating or whatever. That's abusing, just like alcohol, anything. You're abusing it. If you do it moderately, you're not going to have those issues. I think what contribute to Puff's situation is constant injuries, the neck injury, the car accidents, spinal injury. Look, my knees are fucked up because dropping the Ric Flair knees for so many years, doing that type of stuff. Yeah, my knee clicks. It's constant wear and tear on the body from doing the repetitive moves. Learn the business, Pierce. Don't talk about nothing you don't know about. Anyway, back to the topic.
Sit the fuck down. But but you got to admit though, like even putting that stuff into your body as well is going to wear your body down over time as well. Like as well as his injuries, like you don't think that anything of that could have been a contributing factor?
It depends on how much you're putting in your body. I mean, like I said, I don't know what he was doing, like I said, but if you do the abundance, like a Scott Steiner, like I mean, if you look at him now, like he was having issues with his liver. What else was it? Was it his liver? Pause.
Yeah, and he had back problems, like severe back problems, foot problems. He'd have really bad foot problems. Remember, he kept having to get foot surgery.
Yeah, even Alan. Once again, he was telling us the story up here. She was there when he said his foot had to be taped because it was just not mobile or something, and it was bad. But yeah, man. Again, I love Scott Steiner, but the physique was ridiculous.
Yeah,
but the amount of steroids that you need to get to that level is bodybuilder level. That guy had the money, and the guy was a genetic freak because of what he was putting in the system. Do not know what it was, but it was probably top shelf shit.
But even to maintain, he'd have to be taking a shitload of shit.
Yeah, because if he gets off, you're gonna. Not I'm saying lose it, but you'll maintain some of it. And of course, he's on TV every day. He has to keep to that level, so he has to stay on it 24/7. I mean, in my opinion.
Looking at Buff, like obviously near the later ends of his career, we started seeing his mum being involved in storylines like the Judy Bagwell on a pole match. And
she was hanging from a pole?
A forklift, actually.
Forklift.
Oh, okay. I was like, what the fuck is his mom on a pole?
But that's like the funny joke. People always go Judy Bagwell on a pole match, but it was really Judy Bagwell on a forklift match.
But did you guys think it was like cringe-worthy seeing his mum on television like for a period of time? Like I remember just watching it back then and just going, "Oh fuck, really?" Like.
But first of all, I want to know, pause on that topic. Whose idea was it to bring up his mom? Like, who brought it up to the table at the meeting to say, "Hey, I got this idea. Bring Buff's mom into the situation." Like, who thought of it?
Supposedly, your boy Russo supposedly wanted to do it.
Really?
Thought he would add more heat to Buff, like because legit people backstage were saying he's a mama's boy, and he's from the private school, and his mom always was there for him, and like that kind of character and that kind of attitude. So supposedly it was Russo thinking that it would be a real heat magnet for him, and that she would be great on air, and that she'd be a great personality, and that it would add to Buff, but.
I think it was it was a heat magnet because people were like, "Are you fucking like right now?" Like this conversation, like, "Are you serious?" Like, that's a form of heat. Like, I can't believe this bitch was in coming out of the fucking. Who the fuck is this bitch?
But the funny thing was, when it was the Judy Bagwell on a pole match, he was the baby face,
which is crazy. Was it Canyon? Was the heel? Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing the Positively Canyon gimmick at the time.
I think if they would have left it again, I can't remember, it's been so long, but I think it would have been funny if I could visually see this, like he the heel and he is a mama's boy, and there's like a segment where he's in the shower. Remember that old story when we were saying his mom was shaving his ass and balls and stuff like that? I think that would be like, "Mom, can you help me? I can't get my back and shave my privates." "Oh, sure, son." And there's a scene where he has all this lather in front of him, like, and people come in, "What the hell?" "Oh, I'm just taking care of my son." I think that would have been over.
They wouldn't have put that on. Like, there's no way Bagwell would have agreed to put that on TV.
Yeah, well, come on. WWE done some stuff where I'm trying to think. I'm using Val Venus getting his sausage chopped by the Japanese yakuza. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Or Edge having sex in the ring. So don't say they would not do that.
True.
True. So
and
it depends
Vince,
how
that weird storyline with Vince and Stephanie where Vince was like kind of like flirting with her. Do you remember that? And he was staring at her boobs and stuff and like saying, "Oh,
yeah, the
could you not stare at him?" Like weird stuff that
they were gonna do an insect thing and she didn't want to do it. It was just kind of weird and she just died.
Yeah, that is kind of fucked up. Could you but
I think that's the norm in Australia, ain't it? You're my sister, you're my sister.
Yep.
Not where I'm from.
Maybe that's the Aborigines or whatever the heck is all the way out there.
Oh shit, you got to be careful, man.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, look, I think that Buff Bagwell had his mum coming in. Even then, that was kind of like a babyface time for him, going through that as well. But then as well, Buff, shortly after WCW went over to WWE, and what it has had the match that everyone calls the worst match in fucking wrestling history.
You know one thing. I'm sorry, Pierce. You know one thing that just popped in my head that I always tell Pierce, and Paz knows this, is that I never had my girlfriend or wife or anybody come in the locker room because the boys used to walk around naked, do things to the shock value. Now I'm trying to visually like, I don't know if I would want my mom in that environment because some of the boys might do something that I'll be there and my mom is there, and let's say a Colonel Parker comes out naked and I heard he's hung like a horse, and and he goes, "Oh, excuse me, I didn't know you were here," and I'm standing there with my mom. You know what I mean? That is just, oh man, I would just be like, I don't want my family, my mom or my grandma or anybody in the business. I would have been like, nah, man, I can't do it. I know it just popped in my head. Sorry, Pierce, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but maybe you can do it, but I couldn't have my mom walking in the locker
Yeah,
room
no
knowing
way.
what the boys would
That's
do.
just weird. Yeah, and the thought, I guess, that she was always at the shows anyway, because it was kind of my mama's boy, and she's there. So maybe that kind of got in Russo's head, like, oh, maybe I'll bring her on, and oh, she's so nice and she's so sweet. Maybe we could try this baby face thing but then we're gonna turn, them heel, and she's gonna be this mama's boy, and she's gonna wear his face on her shirt and that kind of thing. It's like, in general, you would think like, okay, that could be a heat magnet, but I wouldn't want my mom anywhere near even the wrestling business just in general. It's just really weird. But apparently,
Yeah.
sometimes she would take him to the shows. I guess it was local, or she'd be around. So I guess it was kind of common that he was such a mama's boy, and maybe because it was the
No.
issue with the dad that him and his mom got so close.
Yeah,
No,
100%.
understandable. But go ahead, Pierce. You were saying, I didn't mean to cut you off while
But
you were
yeah, like
talking.
his time in WWE, and like we've all seen the match that him and Booker T had, and it was a pretty abysmal match. Do you think that with that match that he got what he deserved with WWE, like based on that match, or do you think that he got sort of hard done by based on that match specifically? Like we can go into his mum calling up sick for him and all the other
I,
issues, but let's have a look at the match itself.
but I was just thinking that, I mean, we're kind of like jumping the gun. I mean, the time frame of him getting into WWE from WCW, the transition and what he was going through, because I heard a lot of the boys didn't really like him. Don't mean to say that's not to talk about. It's just I think we're just missing a timeline in there about his experience transitioning over. Pause.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of the guys didn't like him. Like supposedly Austin, Angle, these guys weren't too keen on WCW guys. First of all, they won the war, so why are the WCW guys coming over here and getting time on their TV? They won. Like even Undertaker supposedly was against it. Like they won. Why give these guys some credence and some TV time and give them money and stuff? Like they're the winners. WWF won the whole thing. They won the Monday Night Wars. Why are we bringing these guys in? Even though it's a money angle or could be a money angle, even though it's a great thing to kind of set up, it felt like there was a lot of heat from the guys backstage. Then you throw in Buff and his attitude and stuff. Like I'm sure Booker was well liked until, of course, he heard Austin at that King of the at that King of the Ring, and obviously that created an issue with him and Austin. But I feel like Buff kind of has that heat going in. He has a bad reputation. Everybody knows it. Plus, they're a little ornery that WCW is even coming in and might be taking spots away from the boys. That might be a problem. So I feel like, okay, you got all this stuff mixed in, plus Buff supposedly bad attitude, supposed to be his heat. They definitely did not want him. And if you remember when they throw him out of the building, eventually, obviously we'll get into the matchup. Remember when they throw the guys out of the building? It was really like symbolism of like Austin throwing Buff and Angle throwing Buff out the door and like, see ya, F you, see ya.
Yeah,
We don't
get the
want you
fuck
here
out.
anyway. Yeah, get the F out of here. Yep.
Now, Pierce, do you think they were nervous? Just like using the junior high school, and high school mentality. You were the shit in high school. You're the popular kid. You ruled the roost. Everybody knew who you were. And now you're going to another environment, and now you're the new kid on the block, the small fish in the big pond. And now you're nervous because all the heat, not the heat, but like, let's say if somebody asks you like, hey, what you think of Stone Cold Angel? Fuck him, man, because you never think you're gonna cross paths ever.
Yeah.
Because now you're the big dog in that, and now you're coming in his neck of the woods. Now all those things that you said back then or moves that you stole now they're like, oh, okay, now you're in my world. Would you think he was nervous, especially
I
during
think
that
a
time?
lot of I think a lot of them would have been nervous. I think guys like DDP, Booker T, Shane Helms. I think probably because we look at that time where a lot of the WCW talent came in. Besides, DDP and Booker T, who else was really of big name value? Like they didn't get Sting, they didn't get Steiner, they didn't get Nash, they didn't get Hall, they didn't get Hogan, they didn't get Luger. So DDP and Booker T, were they main eventers? At the time they were, but their main event run wasn't really indicative of the main Monday Night Wars that was happening. They were mid carders during the peak of that at best. So I think that even from that top level of DDP and Booker, I think that they all would have been like very nervous and cautious going in.
Yeah, and as a fan too, it's like no Goldberg, no Flair. All the whole talk of WWE is like, oh, Goldberg versus Austin in this, crazy dream match, and oh, maybe Hogan Austin,
Shit.
like all this other stuff. And they just brought in, Booker, who's awesome, DDP, who's awesome, and Buff, who I thought was great. But they're not the bigger names as far as the main event guys. Hogan, Flair,
I
Goldberg, Nash, Hall. I mean, Sting. Those are the guys.
I
Yeah,
say
could you
fuck.
imagine if they came in and did a Hogan versus Austin versus Goldberg match?
No, that
Like
would have
that
never
would
happened. No, that would have never happened. You know why? Because if I was Austin, I'm the same fuck Goldberg because I would have been, this is me, Austin. Like, Vince, did you see what the fuck he did to Bret Hart? You see that motherfucker's drinking out of a straw and not remembering what he did yesterday or what he ate yesterday? And you're trying to put me with this guy who's unsafe? Negative. Put him in below and let him build himself up until I feel comfortable. That's how I will be, because
But do you think Austin would have been like that though?
dude, it's about saving your career. He already had a neck injury from Owen Hart, not on purpose, but I don't know, like a spear or anything that might jar those bolts out of my neck or cause me some pain. I'll be hesitant. I have nothing against him, but I'm looking out for my longevity and my bankroll. So I would not come off the gate to wrestle him like, oh, we got this great. Give it time. Let me marinate. Let me see how he does in the ring with everybody else, and then I'll make that decision. Because remember, Stone Cold, Undertaker, John Cena, these motherfuckers, Kurt Angle, all those guys have the power to say, "Stop, Vince. I'm not going that way." And that's the power when you get to that level. So they could negative. I ain't doing it.
But we're talking about Buff being there. Calling
Mhm.
his mum calling in sick and saying Buff can't come in because he's not feeling well today. Like, even as an adult, like, we're all grown adults. If
Well,
my mum doesn't call up sick for me, my wife does. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to think as an adult, you got to take care of your own responsibilities. If you're not feeling well or unable to make a show, and I think even in the world of pro wrestling, and especially in this time, the guys were more stoic. If they're not well or they're feeling a little bit run down, they're still turning up for that show. So I think that probably would have got him a heat from the old school guys, but also from more of like a corporate side of it looking as well, going, did this motherfucker's mum just really just bring us up right now and say that her baby isn't coming into work today because he has a boo-boo? Like,
the
from a
thing was,
corporate level and a wrestling level, you'd got to look at that and go, what the fuck?
well, but you got to look at it from this perspective. When he had the injury from the water bottle from Shane Helms, it was Jim Ross that gave him like, you know what? Why don't you take the weekend off? You don't have to show up to this show. And then the following, and he goes, "We'll see you in, I can't remember, let's say Atlanta, or we'll see you in Atlanta," which was the next loop. Then
Yep.
that's when his mom called in saying that he was still had a head injury, that he still didn't feel good. And then when he showed up to the next one, that's when he walked through the door and they said, "Kick rocks." So it's all about presentation. I think it was because he had his mom, and plus he was not liked, plus his mom calling. I think if I would have communicated a little bit more, I would have just showed up. I would have showed up because, again, I'd have been like, have the doctor check me and go, "Dude, I don't feel right, man. I feel lightheaded. I don't know.
Mhm.
What do you think?" And maybe that would have showed that A, he came to show up to work. B, the doctor concurred that, yeah, he still has a fucked up injury. And then you could just stay there and watch the monitor and eat buffet, at the catering. So I don't think he should have his mom called in. I think that's what just kind of like layered it to him getting the boot. This, privileged motherfucker.
But also, John mentioned earlier him having heat with Austin, Angle, and guys like that. What was he doing to generate that kind of heat? Like, you know what I mean? Because that's another thing. Like, what was he doing? Was it just like, as you would compare it to Angel, like Vic Grimes, who just, just didn't think before
Grimes.
Grimes, who you said just didn't think before he'd speak.
I
Couldn't
loved
Buff
it.
have been the same sort of guy? Like that same sort of thing, just rub people the wrong way, completely unintentionally, though.
Yeah, but the problem is, see, and this is the thing. I'm using Grimes as a Buff Bagwell. He was part of the Baldies. He was sitting there, and he goes, I'm gonna fucking tell New Jack this. Yeah, go ahead, do it. I think it's a great idea. Go ahead, knock yourself out. And as I sit there, and he goes up, "Hey, Jack," and I'm just like a kid in the candy store looking at the fucking when they make cotton candy, like. And Jack is just ripping him a new one, and I'm just like, and he comes back, man, and I'm just like, oh, you were right, because I used to egg it on. I was behind the scenes. That DeVito had his, like his emotions on his sleeve, so they used to argue. Me, I was just like, yeah, bro, you should do that. That is a great fucking idea. Maybe you should tell Paul Heyman he needs hair plugs. That's awesome. That will get you over. And then of course you go, okay. And then I sit there again. Yeah, here it comes. So, like, and again, I'm not saying Buff Bagwell was an idiot. I'm just saying that I think if he was just doing stupid stuff and somebody's egging on saying it's a good idea, he might have just been like, oh, okay. Hey, man, what do you think of this? Yeah, you should good. Let's see what happens. And it just kept building heat on top of heat. Again, that's just I'm just speculating. But he just wasn't like, man. I mean, I think he was trying to be like, I'm privileged. I am Buff. I am the stuff. And it was not flying well. And he thought he was going to get the red carpet treatment because of who he is. And it bit him in the ass, especially that match with him and Booker T, which I did see. And I don't understand where the part where it looked like a solid match, but they said it was a drizzle and shits. I just didn't understand what happened where, unless he hurt. That's what he hurt. Who he hurt? Stone Cold, did you say? Or was it some other time?
No, Booker T hurt.
Booker T hurt Austin at King of the Ring when he made a surprise appearance. He put him through the table, but he kind of just like launched him almost a little bit, and Austin fell and fell right on the floor and hurt his back.
Okay. No, I mean, but Booker T still has a job. There's a difference. How do you know what I mean?
But also, it was funny. I was listening to Disco and Conan talk about Buff Bagwell, and they kind of put it to like this, where they were saying that Buff's the kind of guy, if you knew him, that you'd think he's one of the greatest guys in the world. But if you kind of like knew him at a face value type of thing, like, hey, how you doing? You'd think he's the biggest asshole known to fucking man.
Perfect example. Perfect example. Big Vito. I know Vito for years. I love Vito. Yeah, we get on each other's nerves, but I have love for him because I know him for years and I know what kind of person he is, how kind-hearted he is. The perception, when he meets people, what you say, Pierce, I can't stand him. He's fucking arrogant. And I'm like, nah, you don't know Vito. He's a good dude, man. You got to get past that. And when you see the person, he's a good dude. Because and that's how it is. Just maybe the people that was around him, like out of the arena, hanging out with him, having dinner, just like listening to him. And, hey, yo, man, he's not a bad guy. Maybe I read him wrong, but the people that didn't give him the opportunity just saw what they saw firsthand, and they like, fuck this motherfucker. The same way Positively talks about you, Pierce. Like this guy. He ain't no fucking journalist. I'm the journalist.
But it's funny with Buff and Booker T because I've seen them wrestle in WCW. They had barn burners and great matches. You heard like the house show reviews that they had good matches on the house shows, and I guess they had a match right before that they had a good match. Something just didn't work, didn't mesh. It was weird. Just like the match wasn't like terrible, but it wasn't great. It was nowhere near their matches before. So I don't know, something. Maybe they both got nervous. They're main eventing Raw. They maybe they think they have some heat because they are main eventing Raw and they're taking spots away from some of the WWF guys. But yeah, it was weird the way that just didn't happen, didn't work. And then obviously Buff gets unceremoniously thrown out, if you will, of the building and literally gets fired soon thereafter by Jim Ross. And Jim Ross was basically saying like, hey, your mom is not supposed to call out sick for you. We're adults here, So that definitely does not sit well.
But the problem is,
sorry, Angel.
I was just going to say, the problem is when you come into a new environment, everybody's watching you to fuck up. No matter if they just say like, "Yo, we got to see this shit. We got to see," and the eyes, because in the back of the arena, they're just everybody's watching the monitor because they want you to do that. So they're waiting for you to fuck up. So again, that's more pressure to see how professional you are, to see if you can overcome that mindset of like, they're watching me, I'm being scrutinized, I have to be on my A game. Some people get past that pressure, and some people don't. I'm not saying Buff couldn't. I'm just saying that goes through a lot of people's mind.
Do you think he could have just not given a fuck? Fuck this. I'm getting a quick payday from this, and I'll peace out.
No, because I don't think so. But I mean, anything's possible, but I don't think so.
That's it. So, guys, I think we're 45 minutes in, and we are getting to that time where we do have to start wrapping it up. I think that we're just getting started on the Buff Bagwell story, to be honest. I think there's a lot more that we need to get into.
Well, what's a lot more that I just realized that, now I'm going to get on Pierce because he always gets on me. It's just that since he was so excited that the Pause Man came on, that he forgot to bring up the sponsors in the beginning of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Mic drop. Now you can't get on me. So let's get these sponsors in. Do you want to get the sponsors in? A little bit.
Go for it, Angel. You take it off.
No. Look, I want to give John pause because the velvet voice will bring more levels to the. Oh yeah, the velvet voice. Go ahead, John.
Head over to Sleefs. Use that promo code MWAPOD Sleefs.com. Got some awesome stuff over there. Love the underwear. Big fan of the underwear. Good stuff.
Those dirty boxes are amazing.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Man, did you hear that voice? It's like wiping my ass with silk. It's just like smooth, like
the
chocolate.
Golden tongue, the silver tongue.
And guys, we have healthvape.com. If you or someone you know is a smoker or a vapor, that's a word that they use for people, guys, if you're a smoker or you use a vape, there is a healthier alternative. Head over to healthvape.com. All of their products are no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and these motherfuckers are vitamin infused, guys. So get a 10% discount on us. Tell them Wrestling with Tragedy sent you. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount at your final purchase. But Angel, you want to finish us up and take us home?
Absolutely, man. Definitely check us out next week on the next episode. This will be episode 80.
79.
No, well, kind of, because it's part
next
2.
Week
yeah,
will be 80.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was just trying to give it more numbers. Anyway, episode 79, part 2 of the Buff Bagwell, and we're going to go in depth of his spiral and his drug addiction and his arrest. So check us out. We do appreciate it. Pause. Thank you for coming, being part of the family. And now we're just going to be making money with the Pause Man on the team. So we'll catch you guys later. Peace out, love, and soul.
Peace.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.